All right, I am not a professional public speaker, so I will probably be reading a lot of notes, but I am the only person standing between you and lunch, so you'll be here. I'm going to tell you my story being Elaine's friend. So 2 years ago, I was in Orlando at a business meeting, sitting with colleagues discussing live virtual training. How were we going to get our message out in the world of COVID? When my phone rang, I looked at my phone and saw that it was a dear friend, and she never called me during the middle of the day because we both had high-stress jobs. So I answered the phone and I said, "Hey." And she said, "Lorrell, Elaine has just texted me, and Elaine is trying to kill herself." She said, "I'm trying to reach Kevin, but he's not answering his phone." My heart sank. 1,000 thoughts were running through my head. I knew Elaine was really close to a breaking point. So let me tell you as her friend what I noticed in the months and weeks before that. Elaine was working in a successful career. She was traveling every week from Florida to Washington State. I'd say, "Elaine, are you okay?" She goes, "I'm great." It was evident the spiral was beginning to happen. Kevin and Elaine lived in a beautiful home on a lake. They loved to entertain, and whether it was an impromptu plan gathering or one that had been planned weeks in advance, their house was always welcoming and always a fun place to be, and we had many, many happy times there. But then, in a matter of what I believed to be weeks, Elaine quit her job without notice to anyone. They sold their house, and life was moving faster than anyone could keep up. And although I am not a mental health professional, I could see the spiral happening right before my eyes. I was feeling helpless, but I knew I had to stay in her life. I remember one day going over to help her pack. They were moving in just a few weeks, and they hadn't even begun the process of packing. I got there, and Elaine looked disheveled. She didn't look like she had showered. She didn't look like she had slept. And within an hour, she had had enough of the packing, and we weren't going to do it anymore. Moving was really hard on Elaine. She was leaving a house that she loved and a place that she had many, many memories. They moved, and they eventually ended up in a rental house. And that's when Elaine was so deep in depression that she could barely put one foot in front of the other. To watch a friend that you love in this state is so incredibly hard. I knew that she needed me, but I had no idea how to help her. The darkness around her was almost visible to the naked eye. We have a very strong network of Christian friends, Elaine and I. And those friends believe in the power of prayer. And we prayed. We prayed for Elaine, and we prayed for her healing. Several of us calling her every day, insisting that she get out of her house, taking her to lunch, taking her to dinner, making sure that she knew that she was loved. So back to the phone call. My mind went into overdrive. I was in Orlando. I couldn't get to her. My daughter was working with me at the time and immediately called her husband and said, "Go over to Elaine's and please make sure she's okay." I got on the phone and I called Elaine. "Elaine, what have you done?" "Lorrell, I'm fine. I'm fine. Really, I'm fine. Don't worry." "Elaine, are you trying to kill yourself?" "Yes, but I'm fine. Just leave me alone." "I'm calling 911. "No, Lorrell, please. Please don't call 911. I'm fine. Just let me be." "Elaine, are you trying to harm yourself?" "Yes." "Then, Elaine, I'm calling 911. Elaine, please, please be okay. We need you." While on the phone, Kevin arrived home, took her to the ER. Such a feeling of helplessness. And the question kept popping in my mind, why? Why would Elaine want to leave her husband and her daughter and her son-in-law? Why was life this hard? What could we have done different as her friends? Should we have done more? What would cause someone to cause so much sadness within the people that they love? Someone very close to me who suffered from depression once told me that it really has nothing to do with anybody else. It's not that you're selfish. It's just that the darkness is so real, you just want it to stop. He described it as being in a deep hole, surrounded by darkness, and there's nowhere to climb. So it's not that you can't think about anybody else. You just can't see anybody else. It's nothing to do with them or anybody else. It's just they want to get rid of this feeling. Elaine spent several weeks away from all of us and started the healing process, and it was a process. We, her friends, prayed for her, and we prayed for her healing. When she came home, we were so happy to see her, but the healing was far from over. Weeks into months before we saw our Elaine, before we got to enjoy her laughter and her spontaneous, vibrant self, and I missed that Elaine so much. I'm so thankful that she's here with us today. I hope she's always able to see the light through the darkness, but when the darkness is going to take hold, that she'll seek help immediately. What I've learned from Elaine, from relatives who've suffered from mental illness, from my daughter who's been a foster mom for several years, is that trauma, especially childhood trauma, does so much damage and sometimes manifests itself into our adult life. And we need to recognize it to get the help we need and not to hide from it. And so many times as Christians, and we pray to God to help us, and He opens many doors for us to get professional help, to get the medication and the things that we need, and we turn our backs on the help that we have, but that itself may be an answer to prayer. I believe 100% that Elaine's faith is what kept her going, that the prayers of her friends and her family were heard, that God is using her and her experience to help others, revealing to them that getting help is not a bad thing, but it can be life-saving and a joyful finding experience. So I'll leave you with this. Romans 8:6, for to set your mind on the flesh is death, but to set your mind on the Spirit is life and peace. Thank you.